And that is it for our late edition of Channel 6 Action News. Thank you for joining us.
We'll be back tonight at 11 for the late edition of Channel 6 Action News. Stay tuned for the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather next. Good night.
Baghdad offers a pullout from Kuwait with conditions. President Bush calls it, quote, a cruel hoax. And massive preparations continue for a ground war. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting tonight live from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Good evening from the Saudi Arabian capital. With his army and his nation reeling under deadly Allied bombing and with a ground war near, Saddam Hussein said for the first time today that he would pull out Iraqi forces from Kuwait, but the offer came with demands attached. President Bush rejected it and called on the Iraqi people to overthrow Saddam. The announcement on Iraqi radio this morning set off celebrations amid the bomb damage in Baghdad. The ruling command said Iraq had decided to accept the UN resolution calling for withdrawal from Kuwait. But it went on to list a host of conditions, including an immediate ceasefire, withdrawal of U.S. and all other foreign forces, and a link with Israel pulling out from Israel's occupied territories. President Bush said when he read the full text, his initial hopes were dashed.
Regrettably, the Iraq statement now appears to be a cruel hoax.
In Saudi Arabia, a U.S. military spokesman said Allied forces will not let up, but rather press their advantage.
Until our mission is changed by the National Command Authority, we're going to execute our campaign plan to the letter.
An Iraqi diplomat said this showed the United States is not interested in peace or international law.
Refusing always the Iraqi initiatives, refusing always to negotiate with Iraq like civilized people to reach a peaceful settlement, that shows that they are in the region for something else, and that is the destruction of Iraq.
After heaping scorn on Saddam Hussein's offer, President Bush went ahead with a scheduled visit to a U.S. Patriot missile factory today and a holiday weekend in Maine. Our coverage of the American response to Saddam's latest maneuver begins with White House correspondent Wyatt Andrews.
Surrounded by the high-tech symbol of America's success in the war, President Bush declared Saddam's offer would not lead to peace. Mr. Bush decided that Saddam was merely angling for a ceasefire and insisted if delay is Saddam's gambit, it won't work.
Operation Desert Storm is on course and on schedule. And we're going to continue to fight this war on our terms, on our timetable, until our objectives are met. We will control the timing of this engagement, not Saddam Hussein.
Yet the question remained, is the White House missing something? Could it be Saddam was asking for peace and was only laying out unattainable conditions to save face? The White House replied to Saddam in essence, forget about face, move now to save your army.
Iraq must withdraw without condition. There must be full implementation of all the Security Council resolutions, and there will be no linkage to other problems in the area.
The president also pleaded with the Iraqi army and people to stop the bloodshed by getting rid of Saddam themselves. A top aide with the president today said Mr. Bush liked one word of the Iraqi message, the word withdrawal, but dismissed the rest of it when he read the conditions. Mr. Bush is certain that he is not missing some hidden signal, that anything short of surrender from Saddam now is a trick. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Kennebunkport.
If Iraq's proposal was designed to throw sand into the gears of Operation Desert Storm, it failed.
Well, if he was trying to get a military advantage out of it, he failed utterly because he is not getting a military advantage out of it. As we've said a number of times, our campaign continues according to schedule.
Everything from B-52 bombers to Apache helicopters to battleships are attacking positions inside Iraq and Kuwait. These pictures show a 2,000-pound shell from the battleship Wisconsin striking a command bunker. There is nothing the Iraqi army can do to stop it.
I think we've got him between a rock and a hard spot. I think we're able to take care of him in a hunker-down position, and if he wants to move, that's even more to our advantage.
Allied forces have now begun clearing minefields with 15,000-pound bombs and fuel-air explosives, which create a blast of pressure to detonate the mines. In addition to preparing the way for an Allied ground offensive, The mine-clearing operation also makes it easier for Iraqi soldiers to surrender.
The main impediments to their possible mass surrenders is obviously, for obvious reasons, their minefields and obstacles.
Still, more than half the 42 Iraqi divisions in the Kuwait theater are rated as combat effective.
Iraq still has an effective fighting force. I think the day will come in the relatively near future, and I won't define that, when they will begin to become an ineffective fighting force, but that hasn't occurred yet in all units. Some units are ineffective.
Reports of dissension or disarray in the Iraqi leadership remain unconfirmed, but there's little doubt they're feeling the heat. On the same night the bunker containing Iraqi civilians was bombed, 2 other bunkers were also hit. One of those bunkers was believed to be the scene of a meeting of senior Iraqi officials. Dan?
David Martin, thanks. A short while ago, I spoke with U.S. Defense Secretary Richard Cheney. I asked him whether there's any chance President Bush might yet accept Saddam's offer in some form.
No chance at all, Dan. We don't see it as compliance with the UN resolutions. It has all kinds of conditions hung up on it. The way for this conflict to end is for Saddam Hussein to get out of Kuwait. Until he does that, it won't be over.
Do you read it as a ploy to try to avoid or delay the Allied ground offensive?
That's the way we see it. He's got a number of conditions hung on it, including such things as reparations to Iraq, such as forgiveness of all Iraqi debts, withdrawal of all Allied forces. It's linked to the Israeli-Palestinian question. Clearly does not meet the test that the coalition has set.
To those who say, listen, it would be better to take this and at least explore it than to send troops into a vicious ground counterattack against Saddam, what say you?
Well, first of all, I would argue that we've been very careful from the very beginning of the military operation to do everything we can to play to our strengths and not to his strengths. He obviously would like to see that happen in terms of direct ground combat. We'll do that when we're good and ready to do it. To suggest that somehow we're now going to do something foolish after having been very careful for the last 5 weeks, I think simply isn't valid. The other notion that somehow now is the time for diplomacy just doesn't track with what's happened since last August 2nd. We spent 5.5 months trying diplomacy, economic sanctions, UN resolutions, special peace missions. He refused to get out of Kuwait. He still is refusing to get out of Kuwait. The way for him to end the conflict, get out of Kuwait.
American troops here in Saudi Arabia were, of course, elated when the news first broke of a possible end to the war. But as correspondent Richard Threlkeld reports, the elation didn't last long.
Resolution 660.
The whole 56th Air Force Transportable Hospital was around the radio this afternoon getting the news from Baghdad. Please, God, let it be good news.
Taking that face value, obviously, that would mean that, in effect, the war would be over.
Praying very, very hard. After 6.5 months, we just want to get out of here.
And if it is indeed a withdrawal?
I'm the happiest man on earth.
I personally won't believe it till I'm home in Tampa mowing my lawn.
Obviously, the troops were, there was an initial blush of excitement that, hey, maybe this thing is over and we can all go home.
As it turned out, the thing isn't over. You're a soldier long enough, you come to expect the worst.
Do I believe he's withdrawing? No. I'll believe that when I see it.
He said he wasn't going to invade Kuwait right before he did it, right?
So why trust him now?
And so it went on, war as usual. So many bombing runs, so much of this or that destroyed or damaged. As you were, they say in the Army.
Actions speak louder than words. And right now, their actions aren't that they're pulling out.
So, sorry, Marines. Sorry, 56th Air Force Hospital. Nobody's going home. Not today, anyway. Richard Threlkeld, CBS News in eastern Saudi Arabia.
Still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News live from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, world reaction to the moves by Saddam Hussein.
You know what I like best about going on vacation? Eating out. So on this vacation, I'm dining my way from San Juan to St. Thomas, from Guadalupe to Caracas, from Cozumel to Grand Cayman. It's all included in the price. But what I really like about this vacation is that my favorite restaurant goes everywhere I go. Take a 3, 4, or 7-day fun ship vacation on Carnival, the most popular cruise line in the world. little behind in there.
All over the world, there's a ritual that takes place right before bedtime.
And don't forget to wash behind your ears.
And for over 35 years, one faucet has helped more kids get away with it.
And you two better be clean.
Or not. Delta, the way water is brought to life.
Poison ivy, insect bites, rashes. Too many choices.
You only need one. Cordaid.
Stop the itch and heal the rash with a brand doctors recommend most.
Present Arms.
Cordaid, the only aid you need.
This is the sound of Unisom, the sound of sleep. With Unisom, you hit your pillow and fall asleep fast. Tonight, you can sleep more soundly with Unisom, America's #1 sleep aid.
Amid today's hopes for peace, Baghdad showed its weariness with war. From Amman, Jordan, Doug Tennell has our report.
Baghdad greeted the Revolutionary Command Council statement with a traditional Arab celebration. Saddam had finally offered to withdraw from Kuwait.
I have heard many American officials asking Iraq to say the word withdrawal. Now the word withdrawal has been said.
Palestinians, Jordanians, and others who support Iraq in the streets saw it as anything but surrender. They heard Iraq demand an Israeli withdrawal from occupied territories and promised the kind of Middle East settlement they have always wanted. Some Arab moderates believe the speech will increase pressure on the United States to curtail attacks on Iraq.
It would be very unusual for the United States to continue the bombing now, because that would be totally out of tune with the new peace momentum.
In the space of a single broadcast, Saddam had offered a little something for everyone and begun to paint himself as a man of peace. His propaganda message did not fall on deaf ears among Islamic fundamentalists in Amman today.
I think that Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Syria will withdraw from this alliance.
But foreign ministers from the Arab states in the coalition met in Cairo today. They rejected Saddam's offer out of hand. The Soviet Union called the Iraqi announcement an important beginning. China and Iran, too, welcomed it. Saddam's government has made an offer the United States had to refuse. But for some other countries, it wasn't that easy. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Amman.
From the start, and again today, part of Saddam Hussein's strategy is to try to split the Allied coalition arrayed against him. Bill Plant in Washington begins our coverage of whether Saddam got anywhere with that today. Bill?
Dan, the Secretary of State phoned coalition allies to urge them to stick to the U.S. view that the Iraqi offer was not only old news, but bad news. Perhaps because the administration senses danger in the offer, it launched an immediate counteroffensive.
Please, are the developments now from Baghdad this morning, are they a threat or are they not a threat to the coalition?
We certainly do not view them as a threat to the coalition.
Some reliable coalition partners were quick to agree.
I think it is a sham, most certainly, yes. It really doesn't seem to be a serious attempt.
We think that it goes against the Security Council resolutions, and it is a total ploy.
The Soviets, in the midst of their own peacemaking effort, are already meeting with regional powers. Foreign Minister Beshmertnik said he hoped to take up the offer with Iraq's foreign minister on Monday. But Moscow's ambassador to the UN was puzzled.
We need to look into the statement very carefully, because for the moment it's rather contradictory.
But the Arab states aligned with Iraq said they'll press the UN to use today's offer as the basis for a settlement.
Iraq has responded favorably, saying that it would be ready to withdraw. That is a major political, diplomatic breakthrough in this conflict. And it's up to the Security Council now to decide what to do.
Well, not as long as the U.S. has a veto there. But Washington's major concern is that some members of the coalition will be tempted to seize this chance to stop the war right now, even if Iraq does not comply with all of the UN resolutions. That's what's known here as the nightmare scenario. Saddam still in charge and still with a voice on the post-war balance of power of the Middle East. Bill Plant, CBS News, the State Department.
For a moment, it looked as if Israel's worst fears might be realized, that Iraq might end the war by withdrawing with much of its war machine intact.
If that infrastructure is not completely destroyed, it means that maybe 2-3 years down the line, we are the ones who will have to face his renewed military machine and take it out.
Most Israelis saw Saddam Hussein's offer as a cheap trick.
What a liar. He really believes that the whole world is formed of idiots.
Only the Palestinians welcomed Saddam's insistence on linkage and called for peace talks before the ground war begins.
It's much better, before the bloodshed, before the warfare, before the bombs, to sit down and negotiate.
An unconditional withdrawal would have put Israel on the spot. Prime Minister Shamir has made no secret of his desire to see the Iraqi military threat eliminated and Saddam removed from power. The Prime Minister expressed confidence tonight that the United States shares the same goals and said the U.S. is getting better at knocking out the Iraqi missile launchers thanks to military coordination with Israel. But this country knows that when the war ends, its armed forces will be left alone to face Iraq. The government hopes the Allies will do most of the job for Israel before they go home. Tom Fenton, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
Strains in U.S.-Israeli relations showed up suddenly tonight in Washington. President Bush had a spokesman put out a tough statement accusing the Israeli ambassador to the United States of, and I quote, outrageous behavior. Ambassador Salman Shoval had complained in an interview that Israel was getting the, quote, runaround in Washington on its request for aid to absorb Soviet Jewish immigrants. The White House statement said the comments were outside the bounds of acceptable behavior by the ambassador of any friendly country, unquote. When we come back, correspondent Mark Phillips with more on Saddam's big gamble.
Calumet Farm in Kentucky is produced.
You know what I like best about going on vacation? Eating out. So on this vacation, I'm dining my way from San Juan to St. Thomas, from Guadalupe to Caracas, from Cozumel to Grand Cayman. It's all included in the price. But what I really like about this vacation is that my favorite restaurant goes everywhere I go. Take a 3, 4, or 7-day fun ship vacation on Carnival, the most popular cruise line in the world.
Get your little behinds in there.
Free tablet. Other cleansers may get dentures clean, but Polident gets the minty fresh clean. Super strength, super minty, Polident.
Honey, we've got to talk about the 4 juice glasses.
I know, hon, because Sunsweet Prune Juice has more of 7 important vitamins and minerals than these other juices.
Oh, that's my point, Dave.
No, honey. Your point is Sunsweet tastes great.
Thank you.
Red Lobster introduces something new, something delicious. It's our specially priced new Shrimp Sensations dinner, just $7.99, with the tang of succulent new shrimp Veracruz and the flair of zesty new Parmesan fried shrimp, together with popcorn shrimp. All this just $7.99 for a limited time, but only at Red Lobster. So hurry.
Red Lobster for the seafood lover in you.
Saddam Hussein's proposal for peace. Why did he make it, and what will it mean? That story and more on America Tonight, Friday.
Some hope and anxiety with the first hard word today on the whereabouts of our 4 missing CBS newsmen. Correspondent Bob Simon, producer Peter Bluff, cameraman Roberto Alvarez, and soundman Juan Caldera are reported to be alive in Iraqi custody. CBS News confirmed reports from Iraqi sources today that the 4 newsmen have been in detention in Baghdad. They've reportedly been held there the past 2 weeks for what Iraqi authorities call, quote, investigation. They were last heard from more than 3 weeks ago when they headed out to the Saudi-Kuwait border to work on coverage of the war. In Baghdad, CNN's Peter Arnett said he was told that Simon, Bluff, Alvarez, and Caldera would be investigated until a decision is made about whether to release them as innocent or to declare them POWs or spies. Arnett said he was told Saddam Hussein would make the decision himself. What's behind Saddam Hussein's latest war maneuver to offer to pull out of Kuwait with a laundry list of conditions? Is it his latest calculated move or another in a series of miscalculations? Correspondent Mark Phillips has more on the strategy according to Saddam.
Saddam Hussein's gambit today may have been dismissed as a hoax and a sham, but those who have studied his behavior say that the ultimate brinksman may have concluded he's reached the brink.
What's guiding Saddam at this point is what he has called over the years a sense of revolutionary pragmatism. He is not a martyr. He wishes to survive.
With his military and civilian infrastructure in ruins, his air force destroyed or in hiding in Iran, his army being systematically destroyed, Saddam may be seeking a face-saving way out, or may be trying to shake the alliance and delay a decisive ground war, or may simply be opening negotiations.
He'll try anything, and we should expect surprises.
By casting himself as the one willing to negotiate, Saddam may well be playing for world public opinion. But perhaps more importantly for him, he may be playing to his own people. Foreign reporters who've been in Iraq say that while people may support Saddam in public, in private there are rumblings of complaint. For the first time, Saddam, the absolute tyrant, may be hearing and heeding the voices of discontent.
Saddam is haunted by all sorts of Iraqi memories, that people who ruled Iraq with an iron hand, suddenly one day, they woke up one morning and people began to whisper, and then people took to the street after them and found them and cut them to pieces. You rule or you die. These are the rules of Iraqi politics.
Having written many of the bloody rules of Iraqi politics, Saddam, in his offer today, may be showing just how well he understands them. Mark Phillips, CBS News, New York.
There was a Scud siren alert here in Riyadh a short while ago and in other places in Saudi Arabia. The latest indications are that some Scuds were launched toward eastern Saudi Arabia in the general area along the Persian Gulf coast north of Dhahran around the port of Jubail. However, the indications are that the Scuds did no damage. Exactly what happened to them is unclear. Coming up next, Bruce Morton on American reaction to Saddam's proposals today.
In weather this raw, don't take chances, take chapstick. This infrared camera compares lips sealed with chapstick and lips without chapstick. Chapstick seals in moisture to heal and prevent chapped lips. Don't take chances, take chapstick.
When minor arthritis pain holds you back, you need strong medicine. Bengay with not just one, but 2 pain relievers. Warming power for fast relief. Bengay helps get you going again. Bengay, fast, strong medicine for pain relief.
I can't see a thing. Where are we? Oh, no.
Did you remember to bring the car in?
Napa, because there are no unimportant parts.
Farragran wants to know. Changed my life. Not much. With Farragran M multivitamins with minerals, fine-tuned for the way you live.
The best in the world, competing in one of the world's most spectacular sports, the World Bobsled Championships on Olympic Winterfest, Saturday.
The polls say a majority of the American people support the war against Saddam Hussein, including bombing runs that, despite best efforts, run the risk of causing some civilian casualties. Of course, most Americans also want it to end as quickly as possible. Americans awoke today to an Iraqi announcement that raised their hopes and suspicions. Bruce Morton reports.
At the Memorial Elementary School in Plano, Texas, a lot of the kids have family in the Gulf.
Today, they sang and waved the flag and dressed up as famous Americans. Daniel Boone and Shirley Temple didn't believe Saddam Hussein.
They probably want us to get out, and then they're going to take another. Then they're going to probably try to take over another country or something.
I just think he's very greedy and wants the world like Hitler.
All over America, people kept watching for news in Times Square, New York, around the TV set, wherever it was, and flickers of hope faded as the day wore on. Oceanside, California, near the big Marine base at Camp Pendleton. A Marine.
I think it's a bunch of baloney, really. I think they shouldn't settle for anything. I think they should go in and get them out of there.
A Marine wife, her husband in the Gulf.
I'm not getting my hopes up. There's too many conditions that he wants.
Army wives and kids talked it over at Fort Benning, Georgia.
But it's definitely a sign that he is giving in, and I honestly believe that.
If he's going to surrender, surrender. If he's not going to surrender, just get on with the war and get it over with so my father could come home.
Skeptical, too, at Teresa Breckenridge's Silver Skillet Diner in Atlanta. Her baby brother is an electronics expert on the carrier Eisenhower in the Gulf.
I think the conditions were made very clear several months ago, and that's the way they stand, and all of a sudden he's coming up with a new trick up his sleeve.
Some voices took a different line. In Dearborn, Michigan, Arab Americans who have not had an easy time of late welcomed the offer.
I'm very proud of that. And George Bush should encourage that. So I'm disappointed by his announcement, George Bush.
But most of us this day said, show us, put up, or shut up. Arlington National Cemetery today saw its first funeral from Desert Storm. Marine Corps Captain Jonathan Edwards of Terrace Park, Ohio, killed when his Cobra helicopter crashed. A reminder, if we needed one, that peace, when it does come, will be sweet. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Washington.
So goes the war and the world tonight. Stay tuned to this CBS station for up-to-date coverage of the Gulf and regular war updates. I'll be here in Saudi Arabia throughout the weekend and next week. Bob Schieffer will have the news in New York tomorrow. Paul is on Sunday. After your late local news this evening, stay tuned for America Tonight Friday. Dan Rather for the CBS Evening News, reporting tonight live from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Good night.
We're about to prove a simple point. On the left, a steak wrapped in saran wrap. On the right, both Reynolds and Glad wraps. Now, knowing a tiger won't eat what a tiger can't smell, which one do you think holds in odor and freshness better? Saran wrap.
We're in luck. Did you know sirloin's only 165 calories and round-tip steaks a mere 157? Where would we be without beef? Out of luck, I'd say. Beef. Real food and luck. Wisconsin.
Ask me what counts most after 40 years in the car business, and I don't have to think twice. 1, the minivans. We invented them. 2, driver's airbags in every car we build in this country. What do we do for an encore? Put them together. Minivans with a driver's side airbag. Nobody else is doing it. You still have to use your seatbelt with a minivan airbag, but it will save lives. A lot of lives.
A1, it's how steak is done.
Milk-Bone dog biscuits, dog treats, and flavor snacks. Happy Valentine's Day.
This is CBS.